You're with Dawn Neeson on GB News, on TV and on digital radio. It's time for our Great British Debate this hour. I'm asking, is Britain anti-car? The Welsh Government, Labour government by the way, plans to enact a 20 miles an hour per hour speed limit starting from next month, and it has been branded its own version of London's hated ULEZ scheme. A petition against the plan has currently raised over 20,000 signatures. Now, is this ULEZ ideology spreading around the world? Should motorists be punished? Motorists, I don't even drive, but motorists are blamed for everything. And 20 miles an hour, really? So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, is Britain anti-car? Now, remember, Rishi Sunak said he was on the side of the motorists. Do you believe him? I'm joined by founder of Fairfuel, Howard Cox, political commentator Peter Spencer, director of Car 26, Lois Perry, and former editor of Labour List, Peter Edwards. Wow, a big panel debate here coming up. Right, I'm actually going to start with Lois, who is with me in the studio here, and she says she's got a good exclusive on this story. So, Lois, what is your story?
Well, if you want any answer whatsoever to is there an official war on the motorists from our own government, you need look no further than the House of Lords Environment and Climate Change Report, which came out quite recently. It's entitled In Our Hands, Behaviour Change for Climate and Environmental Goals. Page 52, clause 170, please bear with me. Changing rules on the use of roads such as reduced speed limits, school streets, low traffic neighbourhoods and other measures which prioritise access for other road users. Road pricing, congestion charging, low emission zones, higher parking costs, workplace parking levies and other charges levied for private vehicle use. So basically what they're saying is that every single one of these measures is to get you out of your car. It's absolutely nothing to do with the environment. It's nothing to do with road safety. In fact, road deaths have gone up, according to the RAC and the government figures recently. This is about getting you out of your car, and it's in the House of Lords report. This is a war on the motorists, 100%.
Right, so let's come to you, Howard Cox. You are the founder of Fairfuel UK. I mean, what do you make of what Lois has just said? Sounds pretty scary.
Well, Lois has got it spot on as normal. I know Lois very well. I work quite closely with Lois on a number of issues. And yes, the driver who generates something like the fifth to the sixth largest income to the Treasury every year is seen as a cash cow and is always blamed for everything to do with the ills of the planet. I'm afraid, yes, it is a war on the motorists. There's not much I can add to that. I could go on forever about it, as you probably know.
Let's come to Peter Edwards, former editor of the Labour List. Peter, Rishi Sunak said he's on the side of the motorists. I mean, do you believe him?
Well, Rishi Sunak's doing a political pivot born out of panic after some mixed by-election results. But, you know, let's go back to the substance. First of all, I wouldn't call it a war. I don't mean to be holier than thou, but there is actually a war in Europe at the moment, so I wouldn't call it a war. But we're all upset over air quality. And remember, within the last decade, we've had air quality named on the death certificate of a child.
Yeah, one child. And this report actually makes it very clear. Sorry to interrupt. Sorry.
Let Peter finish.
Well, I'd rather you didn't interrupt. So, air quality named on the death of a child for the first time. Lois quoted a report, which is an official report, but that's from a House of Lords committee, so they're backbenchers. It's important to point out to viewers that's not a report by the government. The government, and in fact the opposition, are concerned, and even a third party, Lib Dems, all of the main parties are concerned about air quality. And let me make another point, which is all public policy making is a trade-off, because there are tons of things we would do if we're pursuing maximum economic value, and there's trade-off versus the health and social impact. So, of course, the motor industry is really important for Britain. There's about 800,000 people working in the motor industry, and you know, it's great to have a manufacturing industry in Britain. But bear in mind the cost to the NHS of pollution and dealing with people with respiratory problems as well. That's also a big cost, and that can end in tragedy.
Peter, sorry, your sound is quite bad at the moment, so we're going to have to come away from you, and hopefully we can correct that. Let's come to our Peter Spencer. This is now a huge political football, isn't it? Motoring and ULEZ and the 20-mile-an-hour zone coming into Wales. It does feel like a war on the motorists.
Well, I mean, I have to plead guilty on all fronts here. I find 20-mile-an-hour speed limits a complete pain in the arse, no questions. And I drive a 14-year-old 2.5-litre supercharged diesel Mercedes. So I'm as bad as you get. It might be very pretty, my car, of course. It's pink. It looks a bit like the Barbie car, but it has got a stonking grey engine. However, behind all that, there is the overarching reality, which is that we've seen freak weather conditions after freak weather conditions causing death and destruction halfway around the globe. And indeed, only today, one of the top climate scientists has warned that, it's coming at us faster than we think. And so I can see there is an attempt being made here to discourage car use, especially polluting car use, simply to sort of, balance things out a little bit, to change the zeitgeist, if you like. I mean, you look at old black and white movies and everyone had a fag on, right? Okay, and then we had the cancer warnings, and bit by bit things have changed. I go out in the interval of a theatre now and I find I'm on my top with a fag in my hand. So that's how things have changed. And I think that's what not only the British government but across the Western world, that's what they're trying to do, is to make cars less.
Lois, let's come back to you. So basically, the motorist is a cash cow and is going to be a cash cow for whichever government we get coming in next.
Well, absolutely right. And I'd just like to say to the last gentleman, other climate scientists are available. You pay your money, you get the answer that you want. But yeah, they are a cash cow, and this is nothing. This report, he said, it's just a House of Lords report, but actually it's a very significant report. And basically, it's saying this is nothing to do with air quality and everything to do with a net zero ideology that has its basis in neo-Marxism and nothing to do with saving the environment. Because if it was, it wouldn't be doing a lot of the measures that it's doing. There's nothing green about electric cars. They're the least green things that you can ever have. This is about getting us out of our cars. Everyone needs to realise that.
Let's come back to you, Peter. I think we've fixed your sound glitch. Peter Edwards, what would you like to say to Lois? It's a neo-Marxist plot, basically.
Well, I don't think it's ideological, and actually it's one of the things that are born completely out of pragmatic politics. Go back to that point I was making before. If more people, especially in cities, have respiratory problems, that's potentially a tragedy for them if they succumb to lung cancer, but also it's a huge cost to the NHS. I wouldn't put driving in the same bracket as smoking. I think that would be far too simplistic.
So do you have figures to back up what you've just said? Do you have figures to back up that people have died from respiratory problems and lung cancer due to people driving around in London? Because I know that there isn't, that those figures and that information does not exist. So can you supply it to the viewers, please?
So, Lois, I did in my previous answer when you cut me off as well. Air quality has been named on the death certificate of a child.
One person in 15 years.
Oh. Lois, it's rude to interrupt. For the first time after an interesting run, the second time, I thought we'd all accept that's a tragedy. We also would accept that's just a fact. It's not a political opinion. It's a fact about air quality tragically bringing short the life of a child.
That particular child was born with a very rare kind of asthma, but I can see your point on that particular one individual.
Right, I think we're going to have to leave it there, unfortunately.